Number one thing, don't let them know you're selling to them.
Welcome to Uncensored Direct Marketing. Today, I'm speaking with Brandon Fredrickson. Brandon is a world-class marketer and has been in the direct response space for over 25 years. The conversation was off the hook, guys. We went from talking about how Brandon doesn't like to sell to his prospects in order to make the sale. He also talked about how he got into crypto by buying drugs on the Silk Road, and then how he actually accidentally built or helped build the first online payment gateway. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. And although we talked about so many different things, I am sure you will come out of this with a ton of value. Thanks for listening. And here's Brandon. I'm curious because you have such a wealth of information. I want to kind of dive in on a couple more like tactical things. If you can tell our audience, everybody's always curious, especially for, I don't want to call you an old timer. You're not an old timer. You're an old timer in the industry. Yeah. What are some things that tried, tested, and true you've done over and over again to make a successful, sales letter? I feel like you're more of a marketer. You sound like you're more well.
When I got hired at Stansbury, I mean, Mike Palmer hired me because I'm a marketer. He's like, "Oh, look, you're good enough as a copywriter, but you're really, really good as a marketer."
Yeah, you're more than just a copywriter.
And we need somebody that can go back and forth between those things. Yeah. And I mean, still to this day, I'm much more of a better marketer than I am a copywriter.
Yeah. But I mean, in essence, anybody who's a good copywriter is a marketer, right? Like you got to know a lot more than that. So I'm just curious on a tactful, some tactics that you use that you feel like these 2 or 3 things you do and you're automatically guaranteed more success than not doing.
Hide the sale. Don't let them know you're selling to them.
Okay.
Number one thing, don't let them know you're selling to them. So that's why, like, the podcast VSLs. If you are frequently a guest on podcasts, you will kill it with a podcast VSL. If your audience is used to seeing you as a guest on a podcast, you should absolutely do a podcast VSL. You will kill it.
Okay.
Because it totally disguises the sale. That's the number one and make your selling valuable. So that's the, Gary Benspinga said that, make your selling valuable, and you should, right? And that's also, you're doing the podcast VSL, you're putting value into it. And so this will go kind of against what everybody else says. I think everybody else says, like, follow your industry, watch everybody. I say, like, don't fucking pay attention to very many people in your industry at all, because most of them are idiots. They don't know what the hell they're doing, and they're just following everybody else, and they're doing bad adaptations of that.
Okay.
So I think you should really, really, really learn the basics and the core fundamentals. You should get really, really, really good at that. And that takes a couple of years. I'm sorry, it's not a 90-day thing. Now, if I was writing you a sales letter, I'll tell you I'll do it for you in 90 days, but I'd be lying. It's not exactly true. We'll get the fundamentals down, get the core fundamentals down, really, really spend a good amount of time doing that.
Yeah.
And then watch other industries outside of your own.
Okay.
Because then you can bring other things to your industry that are going to seem new. And people like new. One of the things like Evaldo at Agora was really good with his copy, because in his opens, it was always new, something new, something new, something new. And we always want something
always
new.
First. He was always first.
Okay. First, new. And and if you're coming at people with a marketing approach and whatnot, the people in your niche are not exactly used to, but it's proven in other places, and it's like, and it's really backed up by the fundamentals. You can know, this makes sense. Then you can keep people's attention too, and you don't seem like everybody else.
Okay. And how did you make yourself? How did you make your transition from copywriter to marketer? Was it just like a something that? Well,
I was a marketer. I was so no, like actually, like the first, when I thought to become a copywriter, so Chris and I know each other because we were doing launches for Jeff Walker together. And so I was, handling like the marketing coordination end of it. And on one of the projects, actually, I went through a bad period in my life. Actually, I was a really bad heroin addict, and Chris actually had to fire me. So, but he said, like, there was something coming up, and there was like some writing that I ended up having to do. And Chris looked at it, he's like, dude, you're a really good copywriter. Like, where have you studied copy? And I was like, not really anywhere. He's like, you should really, like, maybe get into that because you're good. I was like, oh, cool. So, and that's where I really started really started getting more into copy.
Okay, so you were a marketer and transitioned into copywriting.
Yeah, because like if Chris Haddad tells you you're an okay copywriter, then you're probably like, oh, maybe if Chris Haddad is like, hey, you should do this, then maybe you're like, oh, hey, maybe.
Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagis.com. That's MariaSparagis.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.